Welcome to the Contractor Sales Academy podcast, where we just want to inspire you guys and hope we can share a thing or two with you. Without further ado, I've got my business partner, Steve Shinholzer here. Tom Reber actually is taking care of some other business today, so he's not going to be able to join us. So lucky you guys, just get me and Steve. Steve, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, Derek. How are you?
I'm doing outstanding.
And the topic of today's webinar is you are both the problem to your business and the solution to your business. Generally, if your business is going great, good for you. It's because of you, generally, unless you're lucky. If your business is going like crap, well, congratulations. It's also because of you. Okay? It's very few times is the business the problem and not the owner. And the reason why you're both the problem and you're the solution, do you know that number one detriment to any small business is actually the business owner? And the reason that is because a business owner has a capacity to never change or to change. And we know what happens if you don't change. You're going to get the same old shit that you ever got. People come to us all the time, Derek, and they go, how long have you been in business? 20 years. How long has your business been a mess? 20 years.
20.
And our response is generally, you haven't really been in business 20 years and progressed. You've relived the shitty 1 year over and over 20 times. That's really what's happening. So we're going to talk today about how to face yourself, how to look in the mirror and be honest with yourself about what the real problem is. And then we're going to give you solutions to fixing the real problem. How's that sound with you, Derek?
It's this sounds personal because it's about me.
Yeah, you know
it's
what?
about
It's
you
so
too, though.
funny. You read my mind because I was like, I know exactly what I want to hear from you, Derek. I want to kind of give the folks out there in podcast world your real life story.
Wow, we don't have enough time for that. Other than I am still in a lot of ways just like a lot of you guys out there. You're struggling business, you're struggling with family and business, and you're just in a cash flow business, right? It's the cash is flowing in and flowing out, and you just grab some every now and again, but you don't really have your shit together. You're just working, you're just getting stuff done. You might even have your electricity cut off, your water cut off, maybe some tax problems, and I don't know, maybe a bankruptcy or two, maybe even been sued. None of those things ever happened to me. Actually, that's bullshit. All of those things have happened to me, and until you get around the right people and get around people of influence and mentors. So my first 19 years of business was just that. Yes, it was getting better at the end, but I think after a while, once you've done something long enough, what do they say? Even a blind squirrel get a nut. Well, every now and again, I would hit a home run, but unfortunately, I didn't have enough singles or base hits to get me anywhere. So the first 19 years of my business was just a wreck. I mean, I would just, you know what it is though, and that's another thing too. It's you guys out there in podcast land. If you don't have drive for your business, you're in trouble. But I've always had drive and been driven, and eventually I got around the right people. Steve being one of the most influential with just that, and then Tom, and then next thing you know, I'm partners with you guys. That was the thing. It's like the first 19 years of my business. It was just, that's way too long to eventually find your mentors. I mean, this is something that should happen really earlier in your career. And, I'm still constantly failing, but at least now I'm not repeating the same mistake. So Steve, I mean, that's in a nutshell, that's me. I thought I had this shit figured out, and I would get up and I'd work my ass off. And, my girls didn't know me for the first 4 or 5 years of their life. And I basically just struggled. But for some reason I just kept, I wouldn't give up. And then
let's
here we are today.
Let's get real for a moment. And I'm just going to ask you a bold question, Derek, and you can just say, Steve, I'm not going to answer it.
Sure.
But when I really met you in Cabo, 5, 6, 7 years ago, how long ago was that, you think?
It was 15, 14.
So, 2014, not 14 years ago.
Yeah. Yes.
About 5 years ago, we met each other.
Yep.
And how much money did you have in the bank? In fact, because I remember the amount, and it's pretty much
Mhm.
the same constant amount of money you always had in the bank for the first 18 years in business. And how much money was that you had in the bank?
That's right. That's just a tick over 3 grand.
Yeah, 3,000 bucks. And that seems to be at the end of every year, that's all you had, 3 grand to your name. And
That was it.
is it a over or understatement to say pretty much you worked your ass off and didn't make jack shit for 18 years?
That is the absolute truth. The only upside is I didn't have to take shit from somebody else. I just ended up creating shit for myself, though. At least it was my own shit.
Yeah, but I want to go back because we actually feed ourselves way more shit than anybody's ever going to feed us. The
Mhm.
nasty
It's
assest
true.
boss you ever had, the worst boss you ever had, didn't feed you a tenth of the crap we feed ourselves on a daily basis.
It's the truth. I look back and I used to work for a landscape company. As I went up, and it was probably that was late '90s, early 2000s, somewhere around there. I did a summer in between of what I was doing, and went to where I was still working, doing my own thing, but I went to work for them. And if I would have stayed with them, I would have been so much better off. I'm glad I didn't, obviously, but I would have been so much better off if working for somebody else, because I was the worst and just created my own problems constantly.
What was that story you told recently where you actually, many 15 years later, you ran up on your old boss or somebody who
Mm,
was a postmaster? You were a postman, right?
I was.
What
That's how I got
this
started.
the story was you had changed a ton, and when you finally met this guy after 15 years, you realize he's like the same guy. He'd never changed.
It, it was really bizarre. He was technically my first true mentor, and I didn't realize he was a mentor at the time. I helped him cut grass, and he still to this day cuts grass. And I realized that I evolved. It was crazy. He cuts a church right down the street from my house. So I passed him and passed him. Really, I mean, to be completely candid, for about 2 or 3 years, I would see him and I was embarrassed to show up, which was really weird because I didn't know what I would say. Like, just don't even know what the connection's going to be. But through all this training we do and stuff, I've built confidence, and I know any situation I get in, I just got to show up and the words will come out now. And I literally got out of my Jeep and I looked up. He looked at me and he said, "Derek Johnson." And I said, "What's up, Slick?" We called him Slick. And he was the same dude. We chatted, we shook hands, and we just kind of touched base, and we were catching up. And in that moment, I realized, holy shit, he's in his 70s now. And it's like, this dude is the exact same guy. He hasn't changed a bit, which is perfect for him, though. He operated completely different. No kids, no wife, a postman, and been cutting grass for years and years. So financially, he's done really, really well. But unfortunately, that didn't help me because that's where he was operating. But to digress back to, yeah, I'm having this conversation and I feel like I'm having an out of body experience of me standing there, me kind of feeling like the old Derek that didn't even exist anymore. And he's actually talking to the old Derek. He's not talking to the new Derek, which is a little bit of a disconnect. It was rather surreal. And of course, I said, if there's anything that I can do for you, there was a lot of gratitude and appreciation because he allowed me to reach basically you, Steve, and Tom. And really, that's the thing. If it wasn't for him, I look at all these events. If it wasn't for him, we wouldn't be having this conversation, or I would never even be on a podcast. I mean, that's the insane part. But literally hanging out with this guy, having an out of body experience, and it was just unreal. Like and so here's the cool part. I remember, and I'm gonna go see him next week. I remember him saying he wanted to put a little pond at his church, and they got this cool little sanctuary area right outside. And it dawned on me. It's like, you know what? I'm gonna give them a pond, and I'm gonna help him out because he helped me. So out of reciprocity and where I'm at today, that I truly that $3,000 that I had in the bank is probably now never any more than $3,000 in the bank is probably what I'm going to spend out of my own pocket to build this church. Really slick pond. How cool is that?
So let's get back to the people listening on the podcast because 5 years ago you basically had 3 grand in the bank, and you ran up 5 years later to this guy who hasn't changed a lick in all the years that you've known him. But how much would you say your life has changed in the last 5 years?
I don't even know who I am anymore. Like I am not the same person. It's changed immensely. I'm a different person. I have evolved at such a rapid rate because just hanging out with the right people. And you know, with that being said, Steve, it's we become the five people we hang out with the most. We know this. And we always say you should fire your friends and get new friends. But here's the difference. You don't want to hang out with just five kick-ass people. You want to hang out with five kick-ass people that are still evolving, still expanding. Because a lot of times you'll just get stuck in that same groove. It's like the smartest person in the room. And that's what I see with all of us. We're always pushing, we're always expanding, we're always exploring different areas. And even though Slick is a great person to hang out with, he's not expanding. He's just living, and that's okay. But so I'm not the same person at all. I see some of my buddies, you know how you run across your high school, your college buddies, and you're having a conversation, and some of them have like completely different, like, you know, they're wearing a suit now and they're working for a Fortune 500 company, or they're just the same, or they've completely declined. It would actually be kind of fun. I won't do this, but it would be fun to go back to my high school reunion, because that, I'm sure there's a lot of people that have stayed the same, and they probably wouldn't even, other than physically, that they wouldn't even know me.
So let's put I want to put a dollar amount when you change, because most contractors generally don't do that well. We work our ass off for pretty much very average wage. And I think the average contractor makes 50 grand, to put a number on it. That's probably a pretty close in that. And they're
Sure.
probably working 60 plus hours a week to make that 50 grand. And
Mhm.
even if you're kicking ass, let's say you're making 100, if you live in a big metropolis, big area like Washington, D.C., San Francisco, Denver, Philadelphia, New York, you name any of these cities, you make 100 grand and you're trying to feed three mouths, maybe a spouse and a kid, that's still paycheck to paycheck. And you'll never be able to make enough to save for retirement, save for college funds, and all this other shit. But you've been through a massive change in 5 years, and I want to know, how did that change your bank account? If you look at that bank account today,
Mm,
5 years ago, you saw 3 grand in it. If you look at that bank
right.
account today, what do you see in it?
If you want the exact number, I can tell you the exact number, but it's well over 200,000 just in our bank account, and that's not counting a lot of other areas. It's so our check this shit out. Not just the bank account. So through this process, we realized that we needed a financial advisor, which I never in my life thought I would need a financial advisor. Like my financial advisor was my parents, which was not great, by the way, and my wife, and we reached a point. So now we just went, and I'm still trying to understand exactly how she came up with this number. But if it's anywhere close, I'm okay with it. But basically, she says our net worth right now is well over $1 million, and it's hard for me to even wrap my brain around that. And I know that's probably a little bit skewed in how they evaluate stuff, but if my net worth is even $500,000, uh, I never even thought I would have $500,000. Period. Like it was never even an equation. So to have several, I mean, we have at least 400 and something $1,000 liquid, not counting some property and then the garden center, and that's, you know, the business. But that's that weird part. As long as I'm in the business, as I know, I don't have a sellable business, but they evaluate it that way, right?
All right, so
So
I just want to be clear I want simple math. So 5 years ago, all in liquid money, how much did you have?
3 grand.
3 grand. Today,
And that
liquid
wasn't,
money,
and that
all in, what do you got?
it's close to 450. It's
450.
440ish. You know, it's probably changed a hair since we looked at it last week.
And this basically comes from, and what was your aha moment? I mean, what happened to you that you just went all of a sudden? Because 5 years ago, you had been in business how many years? 5 years ago?
Nice. It was 19, so 23 years in business. So 19, 18.
Yeah,
This
18.
is
So
20.
this
This will be,
yeah.
yeah. This will be the 24th year
So
in
you
business.
were the guy
I'm in the
repeating the
24th.
same crappy year over for 18 years. You repeated the same crappy year.
I did, and it's here's the thing. The benefit of repeating the same crappy year 18 years in a row is I am and was calloused to what it takes to work. I know how to work. I work. That's just what I do. And when I know how to dig $100 hole for a $20 plant. It's like, I know how to do this stuff. And the biggest thing for me is working all those years, I'm like freakishly good at man hours. Like I know what it takes, how long it takes me to do something, and I can watch a person move, pay attention to their body language, pay attention to how they just move about, and I can tell how long it's going to take them to do something. So when I'm putting man hours together on a job and I have a crew, whether it's a temp agency, which we don't use much, every now and then we do, or it's a new guy or someone seasoned, I know how long it's going to take a job. So when I can look at those man hours, and now that I know my numbers, that's really the biggest thing, Steve, is when you shared, with me, what does it cost you to run your business for a day? And it fried my brain trying to figure it out. But when I did, that was the big shift. I know how long it takes. I know what things cost. And the other side, learning Shin Fu, our sales process that we use in the Contractor Sales Academy, it gave me confidence to say what I need to say, put that with the numbers of what it takes to put a job together, and then how man hours fit in there. So that was the biggest deal, is I know how to work. I just needed confidence. And where did that confidence come from? Having the right words to say. So that's the thing. And, you said the epiphany, one of many epiphanies that I had is, you say you charge, or what is it? You double your prices and you'll lose half of your customers and you'll work half amount of the time making the same amount of money. And I just started doing that. I would just charge twice of what I was charging before. Imagine that. I was making double the money.
So besides money, I think the average contractor wants a better life, because mostly we're living crappy lives because we're overworked and we're not being financially compensated for it. So I think nirvana in our world is not just make more money, but have a better life all at the same time. And I'd like to hear from the chat box. Does that sound like the right formula we're all kind of striving for? More money, better life. Because the life we're living now sucks. The money we're making now sucks. The object is to, quadruple your money and actually cut your workload in half, or at least the work you're doing is very fulfilling. It's fun to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so on the how much better is your life right now compared to the way you used to live your life 5 years ago?
It's funny, the first couple of years when we started making money, because it didn't take much. Like when you don't have any money and you don't have $3,000 in the bank, it doesn't take much. When you have $6,000 in the bank, you feel different. And then when you have $10,000 and $15,000, I know I've told this story before, I remember looking at my bank account and seeing $50,000 in there. And it wasn't uncommon for that to happen at peak season, right? It'd be a lot of money coming in, and of course it's always going to go out. So I saw the 50 grand and I was just curious. I don't know, looked a few days later, it was the same 50 grand, a couple of days later, same 50 grand. And I called Aaron, or maybe it was even in the office. I don't remember exactly the real-time situation, but I was like, so who do we owe? That's a lot of money in there. So we've got to, you must have to have a lot of vendors you have to pay right now. She's like, no, it's don't owe anybody money. It's like, no, come on, like seriously, is it taxes? What's in the account? Is that our tax account? And she was like, no, that's our money. It was like, how in the hell can that be our money? We've never, ever had that much money. And she said, I don't know what the hell you're doing, but just don't stop doing it. And that was, and it sat there. See, this is what's so funny too. Like I have, and I've got to change this, but I have money in a personal account. I have $50,000 sitting in a personal account, and I'm scared to do anything with it. Like I don't even know what to do it. Like it's just dead money. Now I know I need to put it somewhere, but I don't need to buy anything else. We're fine, but I'm literally having to change how I operate mentally after all of these years of not having any money, that I'm scared to do anything with it. And I know I need to, and I will. It's talk to my financial advisor where to put that. But so how are things better? The first 2 years, it was fun as shit. We were going on vacations. You guys saw the pictures. I would share all the pictures. We're going to the beach and we're having fun, taking 2 or 3 vacations, and we've got this or that. But now I'm kind of at the point now that money's made those bad things go away. I'm realizing, now don't get me wrong, I want a lot more of it because I have goals and how I want to use it and how I want to help people. But once you remove that money, that drive to make money, that drive to keep your lights on, that drive to get the pickup truck, you're not constantly paying for the one that's breaking down, or that drive just to stabilize, pay off college, pay off house notes, or whatever it is, credit card bills. once that goes away, that fight goes away, you got to get creative in what your drive is, because now I don't have to worry about that stuff. I have to keep it in check. I can't let that, creep up on me. But that's where we get into the why, and I'm not going to get all into that, but it really does change. And of course, yes, I've got all kinds of time with my family, and even after a while, once you have all that time, it's still kind of like, okay. Because after a while, your family kind of gets tired of you too. It's like, Daddy, you still around, huh? It's like, I don't have nothing else to do. Yes. So it's so to answer your question, it changes everything, but it all gets back to, I feel, to be completely candid here, Steve, the contractors listening to this right now, the ones that are struggling, you are in the best years of your life. You don't realize it. It sure as hell doesn't feel like it. But what you're doing right now is, you can't quit. You don't even have an option. So you're going to work your ass off if you're paying attention and trying to strive. But I feel when you have adversity, you're really at an advantage.
So this is all actually great because you're sitting here 5 years later. One of my partners in this CSA venture, your life is totally turned around. Your money has gone from 3,000 to 450,000. You have a family life. Your business used to run you. Now you run your business. In short, you've turned it all around, all of it in 5 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you are actually the living model of the person we are trying to reach and help.
It's absolutely. It's just so it's man. The problem is you. The solution is you. Well, so when Tom was my business coach, he coached me for a year, and he was like, man, you're getting this stuff done. And he was experiencing the change with me, like through this whole thing. And so we're kind of celebrating together. And I remember asking him, or he brought it up or something. He said, Derek, you're just an implementer. You just listen to what we're talking about and you just implement those things. And I remember asking, he's like, doesn't everybody do that? He said, no, not always. A lot of people, they need to kind of go through it multiple times, and we'll help them go through it. But basically, you've taken everything that I've coached and shared with you and what Steve has shared with you, and you just implement those things. So that's really what it is. You guys listening to this podcast, I'm still that same guy as far as implementation, but the difference is I'm implementing better ideas from people smarter than me. That's the big difference, because I implemented putting down the killer stripes in the yard. I implemented, edging those sidewalks. I implemented seeing other people use that particular string trimmer, that mower, or implemented that other device. I would implement those things because I would see that amazing yard, and it was like, okay, what are they using and how are they doing it? So I would just reenact that, and it made it easier for me. I mean, I remember when I went from the crappy, walk behind mower to the really nice ZTR. I implemented, and it became easier and faster. So that's really what's happening here, Steve, is see what other people that are successful are doing and replicate it, implement it. And if I knew of another place to tell these people to go, I would. But the Contractor Sales Academy, the bridge program, is where we're taking people at that micro level and bringing them up, teaching them all this stuff is the only solution that I know to do. So yeah, that's it. I've turned it around completely. And then, Steve, I even teach people. That's like so bizarre to me that I literally teach people what I know now, and I love it. And I know that's one of my big whys is I need to give back, and it's important for me to stay boots on the ground and in the trenches with these guys and gals that are coming up through it, because I know where you're at, and I know what I have, which is truly diamonds and gold to give you. But what is it? You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. However, you can make them thirsty.
So with that, tell people if they'd like to make the same kind of transformation that you've made, where do they go? How do they get started?
It's really simple. Macro, you want to get into the mastermind, but you can't get there unless you go through our Contractor Sales Academy bridge program, because it's basic, it's simple, It's the fundamentals of Shin Fu, our sales process, our 5-step sales process. It's just basic role play, learning this stuff over and over and over, implementing, starting out just like you started in your craft, swinging that hammer and then using the other hammer, making your way up to the nail gun, getting good at this stuff, using the tape measure, understanding stuff. It's the micro level of what that is. And once we build you up and you start getting great at sales and you start getting great at listening to people and you start understanding your man hours and understanding your numbers, when you're on that phone with that client, it's just going to come out of your mouth because you're going to rise to your highest level of training. And the idea is to get you making more money that you can make it over to the mastermind, because the mastermind group is a whole nother level of people that are just smart and they've made mistakes. And you don't have to repeat those mistakes. You can fail, but you need to fail at new stuff, not repeating the same thing. So, long story there, apologize. Contractor Sales Academy, the bridge program is where you need to start.